Hello, 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 and welcome back to On the Mic with Dr. Ace, the Global Mentor Coach. It's been a fantastic summer, and I'm excited to be back. I'm refreshed, I'm rejuvenated, and this season I have some really great show topics to share with you. Today we're talking about teams and how you can ensure your teams are productive. We're going to start by talking about something called team power dynamics. If you want your teams to be productive, you've got to understand power dynamics and how to properly manage it. So first, let's understand power. Many times we like to lump power and influence together. You know, we see it and we say power and immediately think influence. We kind of use them interchangeably. But to be honest, the two are not, they really shouldn't be used interchangeably. Let me say it like that, because they're quite different. While they have similar outcomes and functions that make it kind of status quo or easy to lump them together and use them interchangeably, there are some distinct differences. We can agree, though, that both power and influence are used to get people to do things that we want them to do. We can agree on that. The difference is in the how. Okay? Power uses authority, whereas influence comes from relationships. You hear me say all the time, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's relationship building. It's about relationship. Okay. As a leader, one of the things you've got to use is different methods to get people to act or even change their behavior. In your business, you just can't have employees kind of doing stuff all willy-nilly. I don't care even if they're our temp or they're working with you on a commission base. It doesn't matter. You want them to be productive. You want them to be at their optimal level, at their best. So you may find, however, that using influence over power is more effective. Whereas there are times where you've got to use your authority. You just have to learn which one to employ. You're more likely to use influence with a vendor than you would with your employee. Not saying that you wouldn't with your employee, but there are times when even with your vendors, you've got to use what? Authority, power. Why? Because if they overstep their boundaries, influence will work depending on the vendor, but sometimes you've got to put your foot down and say, you've overstepped your authority. You have overstepped your boundaries in my business, and now I must draw the line. That's a power response versus influence, okay? So your approach to influence determines several things, okay? Let's look at influence real quick. First, how influential you are will always reflect in the people who follow you and their level of engagement and enthusiasm for following you. So ask yourself, are they resistant to you? Are they compliant? How are they compliant? Are they committed? My challenge to you right now in this podcast is to reflect on your leadership and influence. Examine the people who follow you. Is there a pattern? What do your followers have in common? How are you influencing them? Do you find yourself asserting dominance and authority more often than not? Okay. You've heard the saying, you can catch more flies with honey. Influence, power. So let's get back to power real quick. McIntosh and Luke defined it as the capacity. I hope I'm saying that name right, but I'm not. I'm sorry. They define power as the capacity to get others to act based on positional authority that is exercised over others. And that often leads to resentment. And you think about it, and think about times when people have, asserted their dominance, their power, their authority over you. you probably felt a little resented, especially when it was unnecessary. Nobody got time for that. And that's probably your response. Ain't nobody got time for that. Who do you think you talking to? Okay. They go on to define influence as the ability to modify how a person develops, behaves, or thinks based on relationships and persuasion. And this often leads to respect. So think about power and resentment versus influence and respect. Which one do you want to employ? Okay. So when we look at team power dynamics, what we're accounting for is the why of power. Why is power even a factor when it comes to team dynamics? Okay, so let's look at this. Naturally, okay, teams have a lot of valuable resources that we can break down into certain categories. Okay, the first would be material. What are material resources? It's money, opportunity, economic opportunity, money, food, professional security, physical safety. Those are material um, resources. The physical space, the office space, that kind of stuff. Okay. The next would be social resources. That's your knowledge, your skills, your ability, information, your expertise, friendships, social approval, who's the decision making opportunities, that social, you know what I mean? Opportunity, interpersonal skills. Think of that kind of stuff. Social. It's not. This isn't rocket science. And the last though would be cultural resources. These are habits, how people talk, how they dress, how they approach time, space. And when I say time and space, are they chronically late? Are they super early all the time? When I talk about space, how close are they on you? Proximity. Do they have no concept of personal space? Your bubble. Do you need more space than the next person? How loud a person speaks, their tone, their pitch. These are cultural resources that and all of these resources, if they're not managed properly, can really wreak havoc on a team. But they are also the greatest assets of a team, and we'll get into that in another segment. But in talking about all of this, you can imagine how this can really lead to a power struggle among team members. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, oh. Oh, okay, I see that. You know what I mean? So what is a power struggle? It's exactly what it sounds like. It is, according to Greer and Van Cleef, the degree to which team members compete over the resources controlled by certain members on the team. And this is kind of me paraphrasing their definition. And so to me, I have always found that the root of power struggles at any on an individual level, or even on a group level, team member level, whatever you want to say it, is competition. It's competition. There will always be team members vying for control. There are some team members who suffer from what I like to call "I want more" syndrome, because they feel like their part of the project requires more effort or more resources, more commitment, all of this other stuff than anybody else. You can always identify team members who are at the heart of the power struggle. Some are more obvious and in your face. These are the blatant people. You know what I mean? Subtlety is it's just not in their vocabulary. I personally appreciate these people because, it's in my face. I can deal with you, versus those who are sneaky. See, the people that you never see coming. Mm-mm. As a leader, you can always deal with the people who are in your face and blatant with their power strategy, because you see it and you can nip it in the bud right there. You can cut it off. You can address it. You can shut it down and say, what you're not going to do is this. This is how it's going to go. And this is where it's not about using your influence. You have to assert your authority and say, I'm in charge. And what I say goes. Sit down and accept what I give you. Because a lot of times team members don't always see the total picture. Again, they're seeing things from their bubble, their sphere, their area, their minute part. Sometimes you can give them the whole pie. You give them the complete vision and they still don't get it because they only feel like their part is the most essential part of the pie. Whereas the leader, you have the vision, you see how it all comes together, and you allocate those resources and you put certain people together for a reason so that you can get the maximum effort, the maximum output, achieve those goals because you have all of the knowledge. You have that ability for a reason. You're in charge for a reason. The subtle ones aren't so easy, but they can still be identified. These are people who find reasons to disagree with just about everything. My goodness. They will disagree from everything from the goals and procedures to when the team meets and how the team communicates. Like, for real, you just got to find something. I don't have access to the calendar. Why do you need access to the calendar? You don't need to make no changes to the calendar. That's not your lane. They find everything. Why can't we do it like this? They're always looking for a way to change how things are done because it's not how they wanted to do it. These people also, for nothing in the world, they can't get along with anybody. They're always claiming it's a personality clash or is this or is that. And they'll say stuff like, oh, they just different. I don't know. They're just different. They're just different. They can never put their finger on it. Why? Because the problem is really you, not everybody else on the team or the other person. If there are power struggles on the team, look for the common denominator. Who's openly expressive? Who's always, sharing an alternative to how things can be done? Who's a source of conflict? Maybe. Just maybe it's not one person, but it's an entire group on the team. Because depending on how large the team is, you may have a faction rising up within your own your team. So let's say you have a team of 15 people, and you've broken that team down into 3 groups of 5. And maybe, just maybe, that one group of 5 has risen up as a faction because they now want to be the it team within the whole team group. Because they feel like they got the better, we got the best talent and we know more and we got this and we got that. And so, we're carrying the team. So things need to be done our way. Have to look for stuff like that. So I know I've given you a lot to think about in this episode, and I'll certainly, like I said earlier, be doubling back to this because you need some tips on how to deal with team conflict, because all team conflict is not bad. I'll say that again. All team conflict is not bad. But as the leader, you've got to know how to properly manage and leverage team conflict. Because at the heart of team power dynamics is what I said, competition, but it's team conflict. You've got to know how to manage it. You got to know how to leverage it to your advantage. And I'm going to share with you how to do that probably in the coming weeks. Like I said, I promise you, I'm going to double back to this because it's something that you need to know, and it's something you need in your arsenal if you want to be successful, whether you own your own business or you want to climb the corporate ladder. You've got to be able to know how to use power and influence, how to use them interchangeably. And when I say interchangeably, when do I use power versus when do I use my influence, or when do I use a combination of the two? It all depends on the situation. Okay. And so I want to thank you guys for listening to me. You've been on the mic with Dr. Ace, the Global Mentor Coach. Listen, if you like this podcast, please, please, please make sure you like and share it. Keep sharing it on all your social media. You can listen to it not only on Anchor FM, you can listen to it on Spotify. We're on iTunes podcast as well. I sincerely appreciate your support. I thank you for listening. If there are topics you'd like me to cover, send them to info@globalmentorcoach.com. Again, if you have any topics you'd like me to cover, send them to info@globalmentorcoach.com. Again, thanks for tuning in with me, Dr. Ace, the Global Mentor Coach. Remember to spread lots of love and light. Until next time, bye.